Hey, welcome in.
Welcome to the Arrowhead Addict podcast.
We are here coming to you live.
The Kansas City Chiefs are going to the Super Bowl. You only win a Super Bowl 2 times every 5 years, right?
Oh!
The warm-up act is over. Let's bring in Melissa Etheridge, massive Chiefs fan. Melissa.
Super Bowl champion, 2-time Pro Bowler, and Trent Green. Trent Green, how you doing?
Hey, what's going on, guys?
And he picked it up! He picked it up! He's gonna score! And we'll see you next week, but until then, as always, go Chiefs. Welcome into the Arrowhead Addict podcast. It is the OG Hour. Patrick Allen here with you as always, joined by my co-host every other week, Matt Verderame from Sports Illustrated. How you doing, brother?
Doing well. How are you?
I'm all right. This is the last thing that I'm doing for work this week because the Chiefs are on a bye week, and I've still got parental leave days. So I've been taking every Friday off, taking care of Rory while Mag goes back to work, and we're going up to the lake house in Wisconsin. So we're gonna leave after the show, head up there, hang out, go to an apple orchard, do that whole thing, and just carve some pumpkins, watch some scary movies, and watch some football on Sundays. It's gonna be a good time.
Well, that's funny because we're also going up to our lake house in Wisconsin. So
okay, I'll wave to you on the highway up there. I think you're a little bit north of where we are. I feel like.
Yeah, where are you?
Lake Geneva.
Oh yeah, I'm way past you.
Yours is like 4 hours. Mine's 2 to get to. So
yeah.
That's great, man. You guys settling in nicely up there?
Yeah. I mean, the house really was left fully furnished, and so we just changed out a few things. But yeah, by and large, right now the biggest challenge is just getting the pontoon boat up and running the way we want it. But other than that, just kind of easing into it before next spring, which will be the real full on. Put in a new dock and pull out the old one. And they there's a million things like that. But yeah, for the most part, good shape.
It's going to be great, man. 4th of July, Memorial Days, all that stuff. It's nice to get out of you're not technically in the city, but you're in like a city. You're in a very populated area there. So it's nice to get away and get out of your house, feel like you're going on a little vacation, hit up the grocery store up there, pack up, it's just, it's nice. It feels like a getaway, even if it's just like a second house, right?
Oh yeah. I mean, that's why we bought it. To get up there and get away. It's funny, like we bought our house and like a week later, the people next to us put theirs on the market. So I guess they knew.
Right.
Good driving them out. But sit up there, I'll watch football on Sunday and relax. Come back Monday, and then I can't believe it's week 6. It feels like it's impossible, but here we are. It's week 6 with the Seahawks and the Niners, and it's flying by.
Yeah, it should be a good one tonight. We've got a lot to get to. It's been a couple weeks since we talked to Verderame, so the Rashid Rice, everything. We've got to get his take. I know you wrote an article about potential wide receivers that could be traded over on Sports Illustrated, so I'm definitely interested in hearing on your thoughts on that as it applies to the Chiefs. So we're going to dive into it. And then it is the bye week, and as has been our custom on this show for a few years now, we're going to hand out some awards, some hardware to the people that we think performed well for the Chiefs. And wouldn't you know, right when I went to click on the outline for the ad read that I'm about to do, I closed the outline. So clumsy butterfingers me. Here, I got it. Okay. Listen, everybody, it's the greatest time of year. Football is back, and it's here to stay until February. Over 1 million fans across 33 states got in the game last year by making picks on Underdog. Win up to 1,000 times your money just by choosing higher or lower on your favorite player stats. I've been using Underdog. Simple interface. Log in, pick your favorite player, team, whatever it is. They'll set a line for them, touchdowns, rushing yards, whatever. Higher, lower, simple, and you get a chance to win some money. You make your picks on Underdog, and it's really straightforward. So just head on over to Underdog's really simple to use mobile app or UnderdogFantasy.com. Sign up with our promo code. This is key, Arrowhead Addict, and Underdog will give you a free pick to use on your first cash pick'em entry, plus up to $1,000 in bonus cash when you deposit. That's Underdog Fantasy, promo code Arrowhead Addict. Claim your new customer special of a free pick on your deposit offer. You got to be 18 or older, 19 or older in Alabama and Nebraska, 19 and older in Colorado, and in some games, 21 and older in Massachusetts and Arizona, and present in the state where Underdog Fantasy operates. Terms apply. Void in Colorado. Concerned with your play? Call 1-800-GAMBLER or visit www.ncpgambling.org. Arizona, 1-800-NEXT-STEP, 1-800-639-8783, or text NEXT STEP 53342. In New York, call the 24/7 Hope line, 1-877-8-HOPE, New York, or text HOPE, New York, 467-369. All right, Verderame. So I got a bunch of burning questions here to ask you. For the Chiefs on the first half of the season, what we can expect in the second half of the season, all kinds of fun stuff like that. But as a Chiefs fan, I just want your reaction, because we don't really have you on the post game shows much anymore. What was the conversation like between you and Lance when it went down with Rashid Rice?
I mean, look, obviously the initial reaction when he first got hurt was, shit, it's not good. They're not going to replace him. Like, they're not going to replace what Rashid Rice was on pace to do and what he was doing. I don't think that's possible. I think realistically, they have to look at Juju as their slot guy and hope to God his knees hold up. And then they have to go out and get a receiver that really kind of replaces what Hollywood Brown was going to bring. I mean, they got to go out and get a guy on the outside. Is that Cooper? Is that Hopkins? Is that Darius Slayton? Is it Deontay Johnson? Look, there's a litany of guys. Now, you mentioned the piece I wrote for Sports Illustrated. Like, I went back and I connected the dots from one team to another in a lot of different cases, far beyond just the Chiefs. I mean, the Chiefs have ties to a lot of these guys. They tried to sign DeAndre Hopkins. They once upon a time tried to sign Odell Beckham Jr. Demarcus Robinson, it could be had for nothing, essentially. He, of course, played for them forever. Deontay Johnson, they tried to trade for him. The list goes on and on and on. Darius Slayton, they didn't ever try to acquire, but they have a history trading with the Giants in this regime. So there's a lot of things there. But I think the reality is, are they going to get somebody who's as good as Rashid Rice? Unless they get Cooper, probably not. And so you have to replace him in the aggregate. I think Juju can be good. I don't think he's going to be what he was on Monday night every week. If he's that, he's incredible. But losing Rashid Rice, I mean, let's not sugarcoat it, is a huge blow. It is. There's no way around it. He's one of the best 5-6 players in the team. As
a Chiefs fan, were you? I know I was having flashbacks to that the way that happened, an interception. Bad interception by our quarterback, and then it being our quarterback taking out our number one receiver.
Right.
That was like Herm Edwards, Romeo Crennel era shenanigans, where you're hoping for they're going to start playing the Benny Hill theme in the stadium, all that. Did you have a little bit of did you need to talk to a therapist after that?
I was more annoyed just in the moment because Mahomes has thrown a lot of bad picks, and the one against the Saints actually was not. It should have been a touchdown pass. But to that point in the Chargers game, I was more pissed because I'm sitting there like, what is wrong with him? He just keeps throwing these picks that are brutal. Like, Kelsey's open on that play, sells the ball, gets picked off, and then listen, whatever. He's trying to make a play. He's trying to tackle the guy. I'm not going to get on for that. It's dumb luck. It happens. But I was just more annoyed. I mean, watching that Chargers game, I actually got a migraine after the game because I was so annoyed with the way they played that entire game offensively. And, you get out of that and you get out of the game, and Rice is, they didn't know for a while, but you figured out for the year. He is now, of course, out for the year. And you just kind of like, where's this offense going? And then they go play the Saints, who I think are an average team with a pretty good defense and very good defensive-minded coach. I mean, he's not a great head coach, but he's very good defensive-minded. Dennis Allen. I mean, the Chiefs beat the absolute piss out of the Saints offensively. 60 minutes. You're like,
Yeah.
Where is that? Where's that been? I mean, the best thing I've seen offensively out of them this year was Mahomes in that game. He looked decisive. He was confident. He stepped up in the pocket. I know people will bitch about the fact that he missed P. Ryan in the end zone, although, to be fair, P. Ryan stopped running. That's why the ball's incomplete. I love the fact that Mahomes just spun in the pocket for absolutely no reason before he whaled the ball. You need that version of him. That version of him where he's just like, I don't give a damn, man. I'm going to play the way I play. A little bit of devil may care. Like when he wound up and threw that ball to Worthy that drew a PI, he wound up like he was throwing a javelin. And I was like, this is the guy I want playing quarterback for them. I don't want the guy who's checking down for 6 yards of me, but I want the guy who's like, I don't care. You're going to play single coverage? Here it comes. I'm throwing the ball as far as I can. I thought that was a really, really positive sign going into the bye week.
Yeah, certainly. If I had told you, we hopped in a time machine and I took you out for a beer and I don't know, let's say August 1st, and I said, hey, Verderame, and Chiefs are going to go. They're going to start out 5-0, and in that 5th game, key contributors for them are going to be Juju Smith-Schuster, Kareem Hunt, Samaje Perine, and Jody Fortson. Would you have called the cops?
Yes. It's funny, on Monday night, my editor at Sports Illustrated was like, listen, you're getting this game. You're going to write this game up. Pick an angle and write about it, and I want you to write about the Chiefs. I'm like, all right. And I'm watching the game. I'm thinking like, okay, there's a bunch of different ways I could go. I could talk about the defense. I could talk about Mahomes having a good game. And I ended up just writing about how old friends sometimes are your best friends and how, and I didn't even get into Kareem Hunt really because it was about the passing game. But like Jody Fortson comes back, makes a play. But like obviously the main portion of it was Juju. And then Kelsey and how Kelsey's had his second good game in a row now. And of course, Kelsey never went anywhere. But the point was like, they're going to rely on some of these guys. I mean, they're going to have to rely on some of these older veteran guys. Although Juju, you feel like he's 80, he's 27 years old. Yeah. But, they're going to need to do that a little bit more. And look, for one night on a Monday in October, it worked. Now, do I think Juju can go out there and give you 100 yards? No. I mean, most guys in the NFL, almost everybody can't do that. Can he give them 50 yards a game? Can he give them, 3 to 4 catches and 50 yards a game? Because if he can do that, he's not Rice, but like he's viable. He's a real player. Like you can say, all right, we're pretty good in the slot with that. And maybe some games he has more, maybe some games he has less. But if he can average that, I think they're in pretty good shape. Now, if you can't do that, now you're in a spot because they don't have anybody else on that team that you want playing in the slot. You don't. I mean, let's just be real. Hardman's not that guy. Sky Moore is not that guy. Like they're gonna have to figure that out a little bit. If Juju can't be that guy, but if he can be, then all bets are off. Then they're in a great position all of a sudden relative to where they were, once Rice got hurt. Yeah,
it's so let's stick on Juju for a second because that's one of the burning questions I have here, which you've kind of already answered. Is could Juju keep it up? After the game, I was talking with Price Carter, and we, I felt a lot like I think people sometimes misremember what Juju did for the Chiefs the year he was with the team and they won the Super Bowl. He only had, it was a good season. He was the wide receiver 1 for them. He had like 900 yards. He was the number 2 guy. It was a big Kelsey year. Right. Kelsey was getting a lot of yards, and Juju would have these games where he would have a game like he had on Monday or Monday night. And then he'd come back for the next game and he'd catch like 3 for 40 or 4 for 45, right. Little stat like 60, 70 yards here and there. And sometimes he wouldn't do very much. Watching the game on Monday night, I felt like I wasn't like, oh, look how athletic Juju Smith-Schuster looks, but it felt very much like the Juju Smith-Schuster, maybe a step slower, but from a couple years ago where it's like, hey, this guy, he just knows how to get open. Mahomes trusts him. He knows how to find space in the middle of the field. Do you think he can do that for the Chiefs this year, what he did a couple years ago?
I think he can be close to it. Like if you go back and look at his 2022 season in Kansas City, do you know how many 100-yard games he had?
Maybe 1?
2. And they were back-to-back weeks, 6 and 7 against Buffalo and San Francisco. So, yeah, if you look at his yardage totals in those games, 79, 10, 89, 46, 33, 113, 124, 88, 33, 38, 35, 74, 88, 27, 21, 35.
Yeah.
I mean, listen, am I going to sit here and say I think he's going to all of a sudden go back to being a guy who's an 1,000-yard threat? No. But do I think he can give him 50 yards a game? Yeah, I do. I think he can do that. And they need that. They need that from him. Because I think Worthy is really good. I genuinely feel that way. I think JP Worthy is a really good receiver. And the more Mahomes, I know if you look at the numbers and you go, well, yeah, the touchdown, he only had 28 yards. Go watch that game. He had a huge he drew one huge pass interference. He should have drawn two. He made his impact known in that game. It was very obvious. And the other thing I like, by the way, in that game, it's an understated thing, but it's a meaningful thing. They got the ball to McCole Hardman 4 times, and he gained 35 yards. That sounds like nothing, right? It's 35 yards. Okay. That is a meaningful upgrade from what you were getting from Sky Moore, who was getting those snaps, which was
getting you negative stuff.
He was getting you 0. Yeah. He was getting you 0. Okay. You see how 35 yards. Yeah, that's okay. That's 3 first downs. That might be the difference between a drive stopping and a drive being 3 points or 7 points. Those are hidden yards in a game that matter. And so, look, I think if you're the Chiefs, this is going to be about Juju in the slot, and Kelsey's going to have to be relied upon more than they were probably hoping he was going to have to be relied upon. And Worthy's going to have to continue to develop. But I honestly think we're going to see an arc like we saw with Rice last year, where early on it's he's hit and miss, he does this, he does that. And then all of a sudden I think we're going to be, wow, he's had at least 70 yards in 5 straight games. I think that's where we're headed with him. So the question becomes, I don't even think it's do they make a move. I think they are compelled to make a move. The question is going to be, who do they acquire? They have an extra 3rd-round pick. They've got $4.9 million in cap space. You're taking out a prorated salary, a prorated base salary. What do they do? That's the big question.
Yeah. Well, we're going to talk about all that. We're going to hit some of these burning questions. The first one I want to ask you just off the top is, can the Chiefs three-peat with their current offensive roster?
Yeah. Yeah, I think they can. I don't think it'd be easy, but I think they can. And the reason I think they can is because their defense is fucking ridiculous. That defense is so good. I know if you look at them statistically, there's nothing that number one in. They're the best defense in the NFL. I said that all week on the radio. I'll continue to say it. You look at them, you look at their yards per play allowed, and they're 11th, which is good. And, net yards per attempt allowed, they're they're tied for 16th. And you're like, okay. And then rushing, they're really good. They're 4th in the league in yards per, rush against. And you look at all these things and you're like, okay, they're good. That's solid, whatever. Here's the one thing about their defense that I think is eventually going to explode, because it hasn't yet, but I think it's going to. So they only have 9 sacks. Only 4 teams have fewer than them. Now they're tied with 3 other teams, but only 4 teams have actually fewer sacks. Their pressure rate is 3rd in the NFL. They knock down the quarterback, and by the way, by a wide margin, more than anyone else in the NFL on a per snap basis. Their hurry rate is 3rd in the NFL. They're getting home. They're just not getting sacks, but they're constantly getting into the backfield. And that doesn't even have a Mena, who obviously accounted for. He actually hasn't played yet. I think this offense can score 23, 24 points a game. If they do that, I think they're going to beat just about every day they play. How many teams are going to score more than 24 on this Chiefs defense? So, because the one guy, not to get too far ahead here, Jalen Watson is playing at a level. I'll be fair, I never thought he could play at. I thought he was good. I thought he was fine. Good number. I always kind of compared him to Rashad Breeland. He's a solid number 2 corner. Jalen Watson's playing like a top 10 corner in football right now. If you look at the analytics of Jalen Watson, he's literally one of the 5 or 6 best corners in the NFL. So yeah, I would prefer they add a receiver, but do I think they could do it with this team? Yeah, I do. I think they could.
I was talking about Steve Spagnolo in this defense in the after show in the Saints game. And I feel like, and I'm curious to hear your thoughts on this, I feel like Steve Spagnolo, as great as he has been his entire career, and he's got good players now, but I think he is getting better. I think Steve Spagnolo is entering like you hear all that stuff about like, if you want to be good at anything, you got to practice it for 10,000 hours. And,
Right.
we tend to put these coaches in a box and they are what they are. And some of them get worse and they're not able to adapt to changes in the league. And some of them, like Andy Reid, Steve Spagnolo, get better. I feel like right now, Steve Spagnolo is in an era where he's like watching a master painter or artist. It's not just with him, I feel like, stopping every single play and not letting them gain a yard. He sees the big picture of what he needs to do this drive, this game, this half. He has things in his bag that he wants to deploy at the right time, not get the stop necessarily right now. Let's see how things play out. What can I learn? And then when do I need to pull out the play at the big moment? I think Chris Jones plays that way. I think he mimics his, it's not that I'm not saying he's taking plays off. I'm saying he reserves energy for the biggest moments so that he can make an impact. And that's why he so often does. What do you think? Is Spagnolo getting better?
I think that he's gotten really comfortable with this group of players. They've been there for years. And a lot of these guys have been nowhere else. They drafted almost this entire secondary. Reed being the outlier. They drafted Bolden. They drafted Chenal. Those guys have never played for anybody else in the NFL. Karlaftis up front and Mike Dana up front. Like these guys, they only know Spagnolo. Chris Jones obviously was in Bob Sutton's defense for a few years, but like by and large, like these guys, for the most part, they have only known how to play Spags' system. And I think that makes it a lot easier for him. They can play fast. They can be more complex. They can be more aggressive. They can do different things. And I think it's like any relationship in life. If you spend enough time with somebody, you kind of know what they're thinking before they even say it. And I think there's a lot of that. I bet you if you sat down and asked Nick Bolton, or if you asked Trent McDuffie or Chris Jones, do you know what the call is going to be? A lot of times before they even get in the huddle? Probably. They probably do. And Spags probably on the other side of that coin sitting there going, I know what Chris wants on this play. I know where he wants to be. I know who he wants to face. I know the kind of leverage he wants. How can we get that for him? How can we set it up? I also think, too, Spags has just reached the point where he totally trusts him. I thought it was instructive in that game against the Saints. They're up 23-13 in the fourth quarter, and there's a fourth down near midfield for New Orleans. The Chiefs hadn't been particularly aggressive in that game in terms of blitzing. They blitzed 8 guys in that play. Like Spagnolo just got the line. She was like, hell with it. We're bringing everybody. And unfortunately, if Carr, this play got hurt on. They were bound and determined to just kill Derek Carr in that play. They didn't care. They had no fear. And by the way, that speaks to another part of this. And I think this is also part and parcel to the Spags, getting better, so to speak. I think a huge part of it is that their corners are so damn good that they can just sit there and go, we'll play you on press man all night long and we don't care. And we don't need to help them. And that loosens up the rest of the defense to go be free and go do other things. How many teams, and I know the answer, but the answer to this, statistically speaking, is 0. How many teams sit in press coverage more than them? Nobody. They have no fear. You know that on Monday night's game, McCole Hardman had more receiving yards than Chris Olave's receiving yards combined with Alvin Kamara's rushing yardage?
It's insane.
They just don't care. They have no fear. They're just like, here it comes. Here comes everything we've got, and there's nothing you're doing. They got beat one time by Shaheed, credit to them. And other than that, got beat like a drum all night. They have no fear. They don't even have to bring in extra guys to play the run because they're so good up front they can just do it. They've got Pinnell, who's like having 3 defensive tackles and 1 out there. And so I think all that stuff has combined for a defense that went from being, hey, it's really, really good. Obviously, it's really good. To a defense now that, and by the way, I apologize. Hardman had 3 less yards than Kamara had rushing yards plus Olave. 36-33. My apologies. Juju had 1 play of 50 yards, outpaced both of them combined in the span of like 3 seconds. I think, I'll spin this back to you. Is this the best defense they've had under Spagnolo, or was it last year?
I think it's hard to say right now that it's better than last year's, just simply because we have that whole body of work to look at with that team and the consistency. We have such a small sample size here. But I would say if this defense continues what they're doing, what I find the most remarkable about it is that the Steve Spagnolo defenses have never seemed to care about the run all that much. Okay, we're going to give up some rushing yards. We don't care. And so that would be a way that you could kind of get the Chiefs, or a way that teams like to try to attack the Chiefs. This year, they're shutting down everybody. Bijan Robinson, Alvin Kamara, that you knew the Chargers were coming into that game. They had to run the football. If J.K. Dobbins couldn't do it, nobody can run on them. That's incredible. That makes everything easier for the secondary. So if they're able to continue playing like that, for me, the emergence of the run defense and the emergence of the way Turk Wharton's just playing out of his mind all of a sudden is, I think it could be this year when it's all said and done.
I think it is. Like, I really think, because I thought my big concern, I think most people's big concern, L'Jarius Sneed's gone. So you're like, okay, well, you're going to lose that versatility, and what are you going to do? And listen, I am taking nothing away from L'Jarius Sneed. L'Jarius Sneed was fantastic for the Chiefs. We sat here last year, and a lot of times he might be the best corner in football. I mean, he played like it. And
he's playing well this year, too.
He's been great for Tennessee. This is not a L'Jarius Sneed. He was awesome. I wish him nothing but the best. Jalen Watson is playing at a level that, again, I did not think he could ever get to. McDuffie might be the best corner in football right now, alongside Sneed and Surtain. And I'll tell you right now, I think he's better than Sauce Gardner is, because he doesn't take the penalty Sauce Gardner takes. And then you have a guy like Connor, who I'm not going to sit there and say is those good, but Connor's been awesome. So they just have so many guys they can just throw you. Even when Najee Johnson's been on the field, like, how many times have you been like, oh, he got beat? Like, there's so many guys and so many ways to beat you. And the thing that makes them so difficult is they can beat you any way you want to play. You want to play power and play the run? Cool. No problem. You want to spread them out and throw the ball? That's great. You're really good against the blitz? That's fine. They can get a 4-man rush and they can drop 7 and play you that way. You can't handle the blitz? They're going to blitz 6 all night long, and they can cover on the back end. You want to play against man coverage? Well, they're probably the best man team in the NFL, statistically speaking. You want to play against zone coverage? No problem. They can play zone coverage, and they can give you a million different looks. The way to beat them is to pretty much play perfect football, because they have played, by DVOA, the hardest schedule in football this year, and nobody can score. Nobody can score. The Bengals got to 25. The only reason the Bengals got to 25 is the Chiefs had 3 turnovers in the game, a couple of which deep in their own territory. So, you look at it, every team they have played has scored drastically more points against all the other opponents on average than they have against the Chiefs. The Chiefs have just shut teams down one after the next. And, of course, when they get out of the bye, they play the 49ers, and that'll be a good test.
All right. This is the Arrowhead Addict podcast. Patrick Allen, Matt Verderame. If you're watching on YouTube, do us a favor, hit that like button. If you're not subscribed, what are you thinking? Make sure you're subscribed. Turn on notifications. We go live multiple times a week. All right. The wide receiver thing. Let's get into it. Now, you wrote an article for Sports Illustrated kind of breaking down. You've already said you think the Chiefs will be compelled to trade for a wide receiver.
Yes.
Who's it going to be? I've seen a lot of talk about Devontae Adams, and a lot of people say, that they're not going to do it because it's trading within the division, even though maybe it would be in the Raiders' best interest to trade within the division, which is kind of how they probably should go about their business. Who do you think it's going to be? Is it Amari Cooper? Do they go after, try to get Calvin Ridley or DeAndre Hopkins? Is it who's out there for them?
All right. Well, Ridley just signed a $90 million deal. I don't think they're going to get him. Look, so here's where I think they sit. The Adams thing is not going to work for them, and I'll tell you why. It has nothing to do with him being on the Raiders. He's 32 years old. He's making a fortune the next 2 years. Okay, they're going to have to, whoever trades for him is going to have to restructure that entire contract. Unless the Chiefs do something that is very un-Chiefs-like, they're not going to go out and trade for him. He's older. He's really expensive. They don't do that. That is just not who they've been under Brett Beach. So it would go against everything they've ever been. I think Amari Cooper makes a lot of sense. His base salary, which for anyone who doesn't know out there, you're not acquiring the cap number. You're acquiring the base salary. That's what you're paying, the prorated amount of the base salary. So I think that you're looking at Amari Cooper, who's getting 1.2 in base this year. Like, if you're the Chiefs, you can afford that, no problem. Okay, I think he's interesting. DeAndre Hopkins, not a huge base salary. The Chiefs have had interest in him in the past. By the way, Cooper and Hopkins are both done after this year contractually. I think that would make sense. If the Giants are willing to move off of Darius Slayton, I don't know that they are, but if they are, I think that would make some sense there as well. They could go after Darius Slayton. Again, another guy who's cheap and he's on a 1-year deal. Well, I shouldn't say a 1 year. He's at the end of his current deal. And then there's a guy who I don't think that they would do this, and not the Chiefs, the team I'm going to mention. I don't think would do this. If you're the Chiefs, you just call up every day about Tyreek Hill and to see if the Dolphins would do it. Do you just call every single day? I mean, if I were the Chiefs, look, I'm just saying right now, this is like a pipe dream thing. I do not think this is going to happen. If I were the Chiefs, I would call them up and be like, we'll give you a first and a third right now. You want it? Take it. What do you want? I would absolutely offer. Now, again, I don't think Miami's doing that. I don't think Miami would do it. And by the way, yes, for those out there wondering, they couldn't even afford it. Yeah, they could actually. He's making nothing in base this year and $10 million next year in base. They absolutely could afford it. I don't think Miami's going to trade him. But yeah, I think you're looking at Cooper. You're looking at Hopkins. Demarcus Robinson would be the most Chiefs thing ever because he's played there for 8,000 years and would cost like a 7th-round pick. And he would fit exactly how the Chiefs operate, which is to go out and get some guy who knows the offense. And then the other one would be Deontay Johnson. He's a guy. Last year of his contract, not super expensive, bad team. Like those would be the guys I would look at from a Chiefs perspective.
Yeah, I think, and I've said this before on the show, the Titans would. It would be irresponsible to have the trade deadline pass and not trade DeAndre Hopkins to somebody. Same thing for the Browns with Cooper. Like if you've got a taker, those teams, they're going nowhere fast. Move those guys, get some value from them. I like them. I would love Deontay Johnson. I think he'd be an excellent fit. Still talented, still young. But on the Tyreek Hill thing, yeah, I just don't think Miami could stomach it. Even if they got back more than they paid for him in terms of the value of the picks, I just don't think that they could stomach it. So they'll just probably play that string out. It's going to be a fascinating trade deadline. You know who else is still out there? Nobody's talking about him. Chris Conley is on the 49ers, not getting very much run, playing special teams. Wouldn't that be all? It'd be like Brett Veach, Chiefs fans talking about Amari Cooper, DeAndre Hopkins, Tyreek, all these big names. And then he goes back and he brings DeMarcus Robinson and Chris Conley back. And then they win, and one of those guys catches a game-winning, Super Bowl touchdown.
Yeah. I mean, that would be the most fitting thing of all time, right? Like Chris Conley beats the Niners. That's just who they. I almost am like I'm like almost prepared for them to speak. Kadarius Toney's back. Like it's just that would be like who they've been over the years. But
he's on the Browns practice squad. So
he's just chilling. Maybe they get him and Cooper as like a joint package.
Yeah. All right, some other burning questions here. We'll see that. And by the way, shout out. We had a super chat which was related to this from Rob Miller. And I want to ask you the second part of his question, which was, for the love of God, can we just trade for a wide receiver so we don't have to see Sky Moore on the field anymore? A lot of Chiefs fans are asking me, Patrick, why do they have Sky Moore on the team still? Do you have an answer for that for these people?
No, I wish I did. There should be a federal investigation. Every time I see him go out in the field, I feel terrible saying this because I honestly think he's a really nice guy. I'm like, why? Why? It's 11 on 10. Why are they doing this? It's nothing personal. It really isn't. Like rooting for the guy's success, but it's tough sell, man. It's tough. I wish I had a better answer. I have no idea. I genuinely have no idea.
All right, another burning question. Patrick Mahomes, not a great start to his season. Statistically, they're 5-0. Do you think he turns it around in the second half?
Yes. I think. Look, I think it's. I think it's one of those deals where you look at him right now and go, "Man, 6 touchdowns and 6 picks. That's terrible." But like, he's him, and I feel like there's going to be a 5-game stretch where he throws like 19 touchdowns and 1 pick or something. Like he just goes berserk because he's Patrick Mahomes, and you're like, "Oh, look at that! There it is, done." Like all of a sudden the ratio goes from 6-6 to like 25-7, and it's just, I'm a big believer in water finds its level. It just does. Like if you have a guy who hits 300 in baseball every year, and the guy starts out hitting 220 in April, probably means there's going to be a month he hits about 380. It's just, it's going to happen. You know, I think that's kind of why there's a part of me with them that wonders, like, is like the best with this team yet to come. He's been by his standards. And I want to clarify that because, like, look, he's still been like a top 10 quarterback in football, even with all this stuff. By his standards, he has been awful for huge chunks of this year. They're 5-0 against the hardest schedule in football. Like, he's played like crap by his standards. Like, he has gone up to the podium and been like, I've been terrible. And it's just doesn't matter. So I wonder, like, if I'm right and he has a stretch, especially when they play weaker competition, like if he just goes berserk, is there a stretch of 5-6 games where, like, oh my God, like they're winning by an average of 20 points a game? I don't know. Maybe it doesn't happen. Maybe it's a weird year, but I do wonder that sometimes, just based on, typically speaking, what we see with great players who start slow. They usually get very hot and make up for it at some point.
And to be fair to Mahomes, he went through all a training camp expecting to play one way. Then he loses Hollywood Brown. Then he's playing, he plays a really good team in the Baltimore Ravens, making adjustments. And I do think that there's parts of him that I feel like he's just at this level now where he's just sort of figuring everything out for the year, him and Andy. And like, there's got to be, I don't want to say boredom because he's a super competitive person. You see it out there on the field, but like, your perspective changes when you have the level of success that the Kansas City Chiefs have had. And when you know what your goal is, which is to do the only thing that nobody else has ever done, which is win 3 Super Bowls in a row. Like, who cares how many touchdowns and interceptions you throw during the regular season? Like, did we win the game? Are we on track to meet our goal? Are we getting better? I think that's all they care about.
I've said this for years now, and I've always kind of prefaced it, but like, this is my dumbest take, but it's truly what I believe. I just don't think they care. Like, they care that they win. Like, don't get me wrong. I think they care that they win, but like, they're just so bored with it. Like the Saints the Monday night game is a perfect example of this, right? Like, or even the Falcons game, Sunday Night Football, same deal. Man, it's prime time, and everybody's watching. They don't care. What do they care? Those games might as well be an exhibition game to them. It doesn't matter. Like, for the Falcons or Saints, that might be the biggest game of their year, right? Like, we're playing the 2-time defending champs, and if you're Atlanta,
Falcons said that
before the game. They were like, "That's the biggest game in the history of the stadium." For God's sake, like, where Arthur Blank is calling his own retirement jersey or retirement and Ring of Honor ceremony and all this stuff. The Chiefs are like, bro, it's week 3. Who cares? I think there is some of that with them. It's the same reason when they play Buffalo every year. I always feel like in the regular season, Buffalo has an advantage, and then they play them in the playoffs, and I always feel like the Chiefs are going to beat them. The same reason. Like, when the Chiefs go to Buffalo in November, Buffalo is going to look at that game like, this is just everything. It is a 2-time defending champs, and they're in our building, and they're a big rival, and all this stuff. And she's going to look at that game, but yeah, it'd be cool to win. But guess what? Like, come January, you're going to see a totally different game plan. And we're going to roll out 40 plays we haven't shown you this year, or at least variations of them. And that's the game that matters. And I think a lot of times with them, they just look at these games and it's like, let's just get through it. Let's just get through the game. And if we win by 3 or we win by 13, all fine, whatever, counts the same. Let's keep it moving. And I think from the coach's perspective, a lot of times it's like, hey, let's not show our 5 best third down plays and our 10 best red zone plays and our 8 best blitzes and our 2 returns we think we can break. Like, they're not going to show that against Denver. They don't care. Like, it drives all of us nuts that they're 2 of 5 in the red zone every week. But like, they look at it and go, all right, so that probably means 23 points. You know what that means? A win. Gonna win. Like, they just, I'm sure they love to improve and get better. I'm not saying they're sitting in the room just going, hey, that's great. But I think there's an understanding with them about what this is actually about. And it's not about blowing out Denver in week 8. Like, that's not how they think. Yeah,
it's one long preseason for the Kansas City Chiefs. Talk to me about the left tackle position. How do you see this playing out? I think it's hard for fans to gauge how the tackles play by just looking at the broadcast. You really have to sit down and watch an all 22 version. From what I've been hearing from analysts Is it Wanye Morris isn't faring too much better than Suamataia was when he was out there? What's your opinion on the left tackle situation? How do you see it playing out throughout the course of the season?
I disagree. I think he's better than Suamataia. I think he's pretty good. Look, I'm not saying he's Willie Rofe, okay? But I think, let's put it, this is the best way I can always put it with this. When Suamataia was out there, it was noticeable. Like, they could not block Cincinnati. They could not do it. Trey Hendrickson just destroyed Suamataia for 4 straight quarters. I haven't felt like that at all with Morris in the last 3 games. I have not felt like, oh my God, they just can't block. He's had his plays he's gotten beaten. I'm not saying he hasn't. But I haven't felt like, oh my God, what are they going to do? Like, they can't block. They can't do. They don't need those 2 tackles to be great. They need them to just be solid. That's it. Because the interior is incredible. By the way, if they don't pay Trey Smith, that's a travesty. Because that interior is so damn good. Like, Veach really, in my opinion, should pay Trey Smith, which I believe he would like to do. And they should extend Joe Thuney. And I know that sounds odd because you're sitting there like, oh, Joe Thuney, I think he's 31 years old. I don't care. He's a guard. He's not a running back. That guy could be great till he's 35 years old. Like, I would extend that guy, and I'd be like, we're going to have this interior for 3 to 4 more years. And then your tackles, like Jawan Taylor, as much as he drives me insane with the penalties, he blocks well. Now, the penalties make you just want to throw yourself out a window, okay?
Yeah.
But he blocks well. So I'm like, all right, listen, as much as it drives me insane, I will live with the penalties because I feel like he's a good tackle when he's not taking them. Morris, I don't think is great, but I think he's been solid. Like, is his performance that much different than we got out of Donovan Smith a year ago? I don't know. Probably not. Like, so, and they want to.
And there's a reason they're not calling Donovan Smith.
Right. Like, I think it's fine. I don't think it's unbelievable, but I think it's fine. And I think if you're them, that's all you need at that position. I really do.
Well, and you hope that they obviously really like the raw prospect that they have in Suamataia, which is why he was starting to begin with. If he needs a year of seasoning, and if playing Wanye Morris throughout the course of the season makes Wanye Morris significantly better, or even a little bit better, now you're in a really great situation. Because if you want to extend Joe Thuney, if you want to keep Trey Smith around, you're paying Jawan Taylor a lot of money, but then you have 2 young, cheap tackles on your team, and you've got options to play around with. That's what they're going to have to do if they want to keep that interior offensive line. Talk to me about what you've seen out of Kareem Hunt. I mean, I did not expect Kareem Hunt to come in and look as good as he does. His jump cut is just, he's just killing teams with his vision. Now there's some people who are absolutely insane on Twitter. I saw more than one Chiefs fan say, in fact, I saw former Chief Jeff Allen say, Kareem Hunt's the best running back on the roster, including Pacheco. I don't know if I agree with that, but I do agree that Kareem Hunt has really good vision. And I'm actually kind of excited for what Pacheco might be able to learn from Kareem Hunt's patience running the football. But what's your take on how he's performed so far?
He's been fantastic. Kareem Hunt, when they signed him, I was surprised, A. And B, I was like, listen, he's probably the most talented guy out there, and that's cool. And, like, he can probably go get him like 3.5 yards carry. And I've watched Kareem Hunt now for 2 games, and all I can think about is, man, if he's healthy when Pacheco comes back, that is going to be a very interesting dynamic because I don't think Kareem Hunt's going to the bench. Like, I don't think Pacheco is either. I think they're going to be a tandem. I think it's going to be, hey, we have 30 carries a game. You guys are splitting them. I also think that Andy is going to come up with some kind of situation where they go into like a pro set and the 2 of them are in the backfield together because they can both catch the ball. And that becomes a very interesting. How many teams can legitimately go two running backs and either one of them can catch or run it? Like, they're very versatile. So, be honest with you, man, when they signed him, I was like, that's cool. Like, he'll help him kind of bridge the gap. And now I look at him, I'm like, I think he's more than bridging the gap. Like, he's playing really damn well. Give him credit. He was like on life support career-wise. And Kareem Hunt, I mean, he took the ball 28 times on the ground against the Saints. And I'll tell you, it wasn't like he got 102 yards because he had one 40-yard run. And then he just kept sledgehammering away, man. 4 yards, 6 yards, 5 yards, 7 yards, 3 yards, 6 yards again. I think he's done a hell of a job. And I think those two together could be really interesting.
It's going to be absolutely fascinating when Isaiah Pacheco gets back. I'm really excited about it because I think the Chiefs want to run the ball. They want to control the time of possession, which they did in spades over the Saints. Makes things a little bit easier on their defense. I haven't seen the running game look this good in a while, and I haven't seen the commitment to the running game from Andy like this in a really long time. Maybe since the last time Kareem Hunt was on the team and Patrick Mahomes was a rookie, and they were not a rookie, but a first-year starter, and they were kind of trying to figure out how they could keep some of the heat off him. It's going to be really exciting to watch. All right, one last burning question before we hand out some awards. Who, in your opinion, is the biggest threat to the Chiefs in the AFC right now?
The Bengals. I don't care if they want.
I agree. Yeah, I agree.
Bengals. Because if they play the Ravens, will beat them again. Because the Ravens can't run on. And if the Ravens can't run on you, they're done. The Ravens are not good defensively. The Chiefs have no fear of Lamar. They will just get in man, and they'll put 8 guys in there in the box and stop Henry. The Bills, call me when the Bills beat the Chiefs on one game that matters ever. I respect the Bills, but the Bills are the problem the Chiefs had last year. They have no receivers. And the difference is the Bills don't have the defense Chiefs had. And as great as Allen is, he's not Mahomes. The Texans are like kind of an interesting choice. You could certainly go that way. And this is not a dig on Houston. It's just the truth. I just haven't seen Houston do it. Like I still wonder with Houston, like if they got to go to Arrowhead in January, what does that look like? Are they ready for the moment, or are they like, oh my God, like this is more than we've ever dealt with?
No.
I know how the Bengals are going to react, man. If they get there, I know what it's going to be. Adam Rumo's a pain in the ass to the Chiefs. You know those receivers and that quarterback are elite. And it's just like a divisional game, man. It's a brawl. You know those games. It just that game. You know that game. Even if they win, it's going to just be a 60-minute fist fight. That's all it's going to be. So I know, like some people are probably the Bengals. They want the Bengals. The Bengals. That's who it is.
Yeah, and you should hope that they keep losing, because the fact of the matter is, even at 1-4. Look at the AFC. It's one big cluster of mediocre teams. You know, I mean, geez, I think the Chargers are in the playoffs right now. Chargers and the Broncos are like right there in the playoff hunt. They stink, both of them. You know, they've got some things that they do well, but they stink as football teams. And they've got a shot for the playoffs. So you're telling me in most years, you starting 1-4 is a death sentence, even if you're a good team. We saw the Chiefs start 1-5 once and go on a run. You don't think the Bengals, with the firepower they have on offense, can't run through, Cleveland twice and Pittsburgh? Yeah, they can.
The only thing with the Bengals is that defense is so bad.
Atrocious.
Like does it just sink them? You know what I mean? Like, does it just they'll lose 8 games because they just can't stop anybody? I mean, they've lost one game this year where Burrow threw for 390 and 5 touchdowns, and another game that they didn't punt in. And both those games were at home, and they lost those games.
Yeah.
But they're the kind of team, they're 1-4, and everybody's throwing dirt on. They could also go, 10-1 in the next 11 games. I would not bury them. I will say I don't think they're going to win the division. I think Baltimore is going to win the division. But, couldn't you just see Cincinnati being a 5 seed? The Bills getting the playoffs as the 4 seed, and they're like, oh my God, that's who's coming in here in the wild card round. And if you're a Chiefs fan, that's like if the Chiefs are the 1 seed, that's the weekend you put your feet up on the easy chair. All right, guys, have fun. Glad we got the bye. I still think it's Cincinnati, dude. I still do.
The Bengals go to New York to play the Giants, who are a little frisky just because Malik Neighbors is out of his mind. But they still have 2 games against the Browns, Eagles. They play the Raiders. They got to play Baltimore. But I think they can beat Cleveland twice. They can beat Vegas. They can beat the Chargers. They could beat Pittsburgh potentially twice if they get their offense going. They've got a game against Tennessee, Denver. So there are wins on the schedule if they could play well. And some of those teams can't score. That's the advantage for them with that bad defense. Cleveland can't score. Denver can't score. Vegas, not very good at scoring. Los Angeles, God help them, right? So there's 4 games right there that they could get themselves above 500. So we'll see. All right, let's give out some hardware again. You're watching the Arrowhead Addict podcast. Do us a favor, hit that like button. And if you really want to support the show, head on over to Apple Podcasts. Help us on our quest to get 400 reviews over there. Leave us a written review on Apple Podcasts, and I'll answer your question or read your review on the show here on Thursday. Okay, first half awards. Who's your defensive MVP for the first half?
Oh, it's Jones. I mean, look, McDuffie's been great. I already sung the praises of Watson, even Connor. Chris Jones, I know statistically maybe it's not true, bro. He's having like the best year I think he's ever had. How many times, like every time there's a third down, you're like, oh, Chris Jones just killed a guard and blew through the quarterback at 800 miles an hour. I mean, it's like even the play that they got a sack on against New Orleans, it was Wharton. And Wharton, by the way, has played very well this year. It was set up by the fact that Jones literally took the left guard in the center and just bull rushed both of them into Derek Carr. It was unbelievable. All 3 guys just ended up like in a ball at the feet of Derek Carr, and then Wharton just finished them off. It's got to be Jones. Jones has been, I would argue, Jones has been the best player on the team this year.
I'm with you. I really thought about going with McDuffie because
he's outrageous. Yeah.
Unbelievable. He's so good. But the whole thing, Chris Jones makes the whole thing work. He makes everybody's job easier. It's got to be him. Okay. What about on offense? Who's your offensive MVP?
Who's your offensive MVP? Well, it's not Mahomes. To this point, you know what? This is kind of a crap answer, but it's the truth. To me, it's the interior of the offensive line because they have been awesome every game. They've been better running the ball than ever before. They have given Mahomes tons of time to throw the ball. Those 3 guys have been the quiet engine of the offense. And by the way, I think by the end of the year, do you know Mahomes is still like far and away the MVP favorite overall? Like I'm betting odds to be the MVP.
That's incredible.
It's not even close. Like he's like double the odds better than anybody else to be the MVP. He's got 6 touchdowns and 6 picks. But yeah, he's sitting there at like plus like 230 or whatever the hell it is. But I would say the interior. I'd say the interior.
I'm with you. You stole my answer. I was going to say the interior. I think specifically Trey Smith has just been fantastic. Run blocking. He's been unbelievable. But those 3 in the middle, they're part of the reason why the Chiefs are able to move the ball right now. Okay. What about special teams? I feel like it's a toss up here between Butker and Ariza. Who do you give it to?
I'll give it to Butker. I mean, Butker's been awesome. I know he missed a field goal in the last game. He'd be off the upright, but I mean, you know you have a great kicker when you're legitimately shocked that a guy misses a field goal ever from any distance. You're just look. I remember when they were playing. Oh God, what game was it? It was in Atlanta when there was like a moment there. You're like, well, Atlanta might score, and if they do, the Chiefs might need a field goal to win the game or to tie it, depending on what Atlanta does. And I actually thought to myself, I'm like, if they get to midfield, they'll probably tie the game. Like it's a 68-yard field goal indoors, he'll probably hit it, which maybe is ridiculous. But like I've heard Tobe say he could hit a field goal from 70, 72 yards. And I really think he would do it. Like if they needed him to do it, I think there's like at least a 50-50 coin flip shot he hits it. So I will go with Butker.
I think I'm going to go Matt Ariza, man. I think he's been absolutely incredible. He's averaged 50.5 yards on his punt this year. He's got a 63-yard punt, 8 punts inside the 20, only 2 touchbacks, 3 fair catches. He's just been really, really good. It's sort of one of those quiet ones, you know, Chiefs don't punt a lot. He gets in there. Oh, he had 3 punts in this game. Oh, all 3 of them were inside the 20. We know he's got the big leg, but I think he's really shown what he can do. Butker, you know, he missed that field goal last week. That's what got him for me. So let's go with the punter. Have a little fun. Butker will win it by the end of the year, I'm sure. All right. Most unexpected contributor.
There's been a few. I think Watson has outperformed what I thought going in more than anybody else, but it's got to like be Juju or Kareem, doesn't it? Like I'll say Juju. I mean, he had 130 yards. I didn't know he got 130 yards for the season. And I texted somebody with the organization after the game, and I'm like, holy crap, man. Like, what the hell? And the guy, I'm paraphrasing, basically like, I know. Like, who knew? Like, I mean, that was basically like the response. So, yeah, man, I know it's just one game, so maybe that shouldn't be the answer. But for me, it's kind of the answer. It's like one of those two guys.
Yeah, I think of the two of those, and that's not my answer, but of the two of those, I would go with Kareem Hunt, just simply because he's
longer.
Yeah, he's done it for a couple of games. Yeah. But for me, it's Turk Wharton.
That's fair. He's been great.
He's been on the team forever, and he is right there with Chris Jones in efficiency. He's been absolutely incredible for them. Yep. Just didn't see it coming. Just one of those, like, where did this come from? Turk Wharton, I don't know if he's in a contract year or what, but
he is.
He is. Well, there you go. Terez Paylor, rest in peace. Contract year is undefeated. Incredible. When you get a contribution like that, that's where I feel like you're really cooking with gas. With somebody like a Turk Wharton comes along, or Mike Pinnell's been very good for them. I was glad that he's back in the fold. It really helps your team. So, all right, rookie of the year. It's got to be Xavier Worthy, right?
Yeah, I was trying to think. Yeah, it's got to be. That's an easy call. Yeah, Xavier Worthy.
Yeah. I'm with you. I mean, I think he is just, I've seen some people say, well, how do we know he's not going to be one of those, like, just those guys that ends up being really fast and is like a deep threat. So every like 4 games, he gets loose for like an 80-yard touchdown, but he doesn't catch a lot of balls. I just don't think that's the way it's going to be. He jumps off the screen at me with talent. And I think Andy's going to know how to use them. Icing the, who did we play before the Saints? Was that the Chargers game? Icing that Chargers game with the catch on the drag route for the first down. Yeah. Like, that's where you see, like, and they've tried that route a couple times, and Mahomes missed him on one. When those two get on the same page, like, that's the kind of route that's the same similar route they ran with Tyreek Hill against the Bills. Yep. Remember in the playoff game, and he was gone. He got around the corner. That's what can happen with a guy like that. That's that fast. That he can turn that corner. Rashid Rice ain't turning that corner. He can run that route. He can catch the ball for you. He's not going to turn the corner. If they can get Xavier Worthy going throughout the course of the season, and I think they will, they're going to be in great shape. He's really going to be good. Okay. Before we get out of here, we do a little segment on this show called Patty's Power Rankings. And this week, I thought, as much as I wanted to rank food, because it is Count Chocula season. By the way, did you get your hands on the Kelsey Crunch yet?
Yeah, the whole box lasted like a day and a half.
I'm not ashamed to admit, I ate that entire box in 3 bowls. I poured the biggest bowls of cereal. It was so good. Great job by them. I'm a little bit pissed off though. After years and years, you and I had the cereal market cornered. Yes. On a sports podcast, a Chiefs-focused sports podcast, and then the Kelsey. Does Travis Kelce not have enough? He's filthy rich. He's incredibly good looking. He's going to go walk into the Hall of Fame. He's got 3 Super Bowl rings. Probably going to get another one before he retires. And he's dating a beautiful woman who's the most famous woman in the entire world. Is also incredibly talented. Did he need to come for our cereal stick too?
Apparently, yes. And there was no consultation about it. So. I don't feel good about it. Next time I see him, I'll say it to him. Okay.
Yeah.
Hey, you and I are gonna have to not fight about it because you'll kill me. But let's at least have a heated conversation about it.
I can't. Well, and we wanted General Mills or one of these companies to sponsor the podcast. We've probably sold more cereal than the Kelsey brothers. That's probably not true. But can you imagine, can you imagine how bad the sales would be if they put our faces on a box of cereal in the supermarket? Huh? Oh, God. People wouldn't go down the aisle.
I was going to say that might be something that actually gets people to eat healthier.
Yeah.
It might be the first time Americans ever figured it out. Yeah.
Yeah, they tell you to shop on the outside of the store. All right, this one I thought it'd be fun to rank your 3 favorite non-Chiefs uniforms in the NFL. So some of these other teams. I'll give you a second to think about it. I'll kick us off with my number 3, which is the Cowboys. I don't like the Cowboys. I don't like their owner. I don't like their fans. Those uniforms are pretty damn slick, man. I mean, and they work in every combination too. Some teams, one that looks pretty good and the other one, those Cowboys uniforms work for me no matter which way you slice it.
That's fair. They're classic. They would be close for me. The Colts would be up there. I'm a big traditionalist. I'll say the Steelers for me, number 3.
Yeah, number 3.
Black and gold, man, just a good look. Again, kind of your point, like even when they're wearing the whites, they look nice. The Steelers, and they got that interesting touch of like only being on the one side of the helmet. So I'll go with the Steelers.
Totally unique too. They have it on the one side. It's a really unique logo. There's really nothing else quite like it in sports. I love the Steelers as well. Number 2 for me is the 49ers. Another classic uniform. It just works, man. It's such a clean logo. I like the shade of red that they use. You ask a Chiefs fan, what are the Chiefs colors? They'll say red and gold or red and yellow. 49ers are going to say red and gold. They have the true gold color. The Chiefs have like the highlighter yellow. I feel like it's more
the
yellow.
Chiefs were yellow. I know. I said that once on Twitter. You would imagine the amount of Chiefs fans are like, "You're an asshole. It's gold." Like it's not. It's yellow. We're yellow, which is fine. Yellow's like I love yellow, so it's fine. But look, I'll while I'm pissing people off, let's keep it going. I think the Raiders are number 2 for me. They have great uniforms. Like the team sucks. But they have great uniforms. They've kept them forever. The silver. If you say silver and black in sports, you're not talking about the LA Kings.
Right.
You know exactly who you're talking about. And I think that's a credit to them in terms of their uniforms.
They're beautiful. It's a great color combination. I wanted to put them on the list, but I just couldn't stomach it.
Good for you.
There's a few honorable mentions. I don't count these because if the Houston Oilers still exist, they would be number 1 for me.
Yes.
Incredible uniforms. The Chargers powder blues are beautiful.
Yep.
I love the Lions uniforms as well. Slick, obviously classic. The Packers. There's some really good ones. You and I are both more traditionalists when it comes to this. And number 1 for me is the Pittsburgh Steelers. I mean, that black and yellow, the helmet, the history of the team, their pedigree, everything. It's just a great logo, and it's just badass, man. Like having just the logo on the one side of the helmet, nobody does that. Steelers for me.
My number 1's the Packers. I love when they wear their home greens. I just think those are beautiful. I like the green and gold combo. Maybe it's being an A's fan growing up or whatever. I don't know, but I've always liked that. And there's something about it against the white and the snow at Lambeau, like when they have those uniforms. It's just there's something about that aesthetic. I've always felt that way, I guess, like a big nerd. Like there's a part of me, there are certain stadiums, especially in playoff time, that just they hit visually, they hit differently. It feels different when you're watching the game. Lambeau's one of them. Arrowhead is one of them. To be fair, when Denver's good, Denver's one of them. Pittsburgh is like that. Those outdoor cold weather states, Buffalo. So like when you get a playoff game in Lambeau and they're wearing those, that to me always it feels like football. So I'll say the Packers.
Yeah, and they're never in the playoffs really, but Cleveland right on the lake. The shots.
Yeah, they're another one.
That,
Yep.
Bills. There's something too for me with some of these uniforms about teams that have been good in multiple eras. And so when you think back of the big games that they played in the 60s, the 70s, that always stands out to me. You and I often talk about the Cowboys on Thanksgiving, like that just being in Madden and Summerall.
Yes.
There's kids that are going to be growing up today, and they'll have different announcers that they remember as they got into football. But it's great fun. I don't like all the changes, but I'll go throw in one more honorable mention. The Denver Broncos, they just wore them. The Broncos old uniforms with
those are awesome
on the helmet.
And now they're going back to looking like Boise State knockoff. But I mean,
they're so hideous, the ones they have now.
It's like, why? What are you doing? I know. It's the same thing with the Bucks. Like, where are the creamsicles? Like, who the hell wants to see the current uniform they've got? Like, is anyone asking for this? The Rams, by the way, are another team like that. The Rams. Go back to when you had like Isaac Bruce. Go back to that balloon yellow look. It's a great look. What? Like, the damn horn doesn't even go all the way around. The thing looks like crap. Like, just some of these teams try to get too cute with it. And every once in a while, to be fair, some teams comes up with a little bit of a redesign that looks better. Like The Bengals uniform now looks better than what it was when Andy Dalton and all them were there. But like, there's so many of them. Like Jacksonville's uniform now is better than it was at one point. But a lot of them, they just remake these uniforms out of like boredom. Like the Falcons uniform. The Patriots, right. Who in God's name is like, yes, ATL across the front? I didn't know where they played. I had no idea. Like, wear your red helmets. Wear Pat Patriot. The Bills, and the Bills uniforms, by the way, are fine. I'm not knocking the Bills. They have nice uniforms. But like, give me the standing Buffalo. Who is against that? Who's like, no, that doesn't look nice. Who are these people? I demand to know who these people are.
Yeah. The standing Buffalo is great. The old Jets uniforms. I'd love to see the old Dolphins helmets with the Dolphins get the helmet on. I like the Dolphins uniforms. I think they look good. But it was like there was a rush to modernize some of these uniforms. And like the Chargers got those hideous uniforms that they wear like during the LaDainian Tomlinson era. And some of them were just so bad. And the Buccaneers uniforms are like out of a Disney movie instead of the creamsicles, which were incredible.
A disaster.
Yeah. All right. Those are our power rankings. Thank you, everybody, for tuning in to the show. Enjoy a weekend of stress-free football. Nobody can get hurt on the Chiefs. Nothing bad's going to happen. The Chiefs don't have to do anything except sit back and watch other teams lose.
And not be in the news.
Yes, please don't be in the news.
Key. That's key.
Yeah, you don't want to hear anything about that. By the way, did you make it to Sterling's wedding?
I did not. Unfortunately, I couldn't swing it without taking like 3 hotel. Like I would have needed like 3 nights in a hotel. And as much as Sterling is my guy, I'm like, I can't justify dropping $1,000 to be in a hotel room for like 4 hours of party. So
he should have paid for it for you.
Yeah, well, if he had any class, he would have. But he's
Hi, Maisie.
Hi.
How are you?
Hi.
Good.
It's been a while since we had a Maisie Bomb on the show. Rory has not been on the podcast yet. We're gonna have to introduce
him
those
on.
two at some point.
Gotta get him on.
Yeah. Yeah.
All right, we're about to sign off. Can you say goodbye to everybody?
Bye, everybody.
Bye to Maisie and Verderame. Make sure you check out Matt's work over at sportsillustrated.com. Thank you to producer Richard for making the whole thing go. My name is Patrick Allen. We'll see you guys next week with our regular slate of shows. But until then, as always, go Chiefs.